Cuba! It's me! Episode 48 of the W.I.L.L.I.W show, which stands for Wrestling is Life. Life is Wrestling. Now today, I wanted to continue my series on Ike the Crippler Shaw. So this is part 5 of Ike Shaw. Now by this point, I got together with some other students and we had moved out of the school. And we would still go there to use the ring and train and whatnot. And Ike was still always up to his same old nonsense and everything. Excuse me. And by this time, he had gotten a hold of this guy named Herbie, who was like an old war veteran, and apparently Herbie didn't have any other family. Now, I have no idea how Ike discovered him or found out about this, but somehow Ike manipulated his way into gaining power of attorney over Herbie, and he milked the heck out of Herbie. He got like a grant for Herbie. Apparently Herbie couldn't get up and down the stairs very well, which it was really Ike who could. He was just too lazy. So he got a grant for them to install one of those chair lifts where you sit on it and it would go up and down the stairs. And Herbie never used it, but Ike did. And he would use Herbie and take him to the doctor and get prescriptions filled for Herbie, and then Ike would use the prescriptions, and this thing called Meals on Wheels would come, and they would give him free meals, and a lot of times Star the dog would end up eating the meals, or Ike himself would eat the meals if it was something he liked. And Herbie was, I don't know if he really not there anymore, or he just pretended not to be there because he couldn't stand the nonsense, but he would like go and try to like cook a dish rag on the stove and cause fires, or wander around in the middle of the night and like thinking someone's bedroom was a bathroom, and you could hear someone go, "Herbie, no!" And Ike just milked the hell of it and used him for everything. And he had power of attorney, like I said, so any of the money that Herbie got from the government, Ike would take it and say that it was going towards Herbie's rent and everything else like that. And like I said, he got free food from Meals on Wheels, and basically he just sat in this room and had the TV on all day. So we had it out for Ike, and we also realized by this point, like, if it was just one of us, Ike could take control, but if we all stood together, there was not much we could do. So we started, like, playing pranks on Ike. Like, we would put something to cover up the camera in the gym, and then he would come in and freak out, and everyone would act dumb and plead innocent, and he would threaten to kick us all out of the school, but there was nothing he could do. And then finally, me and Big Lars, we had been waiting. We're like, what's a good prank we can play on Ike where we won't get caught, that will just drive him mad over something so stupid? And finally, we got our chance. Ike had this dumpster out back where, you know, when the garbage was full, one of the students would take down the garbage and throw it in the dumpster. Well, every time it got full, he had to call the city and pay them to have it dumped. Well, the bill was getting outrageous in Ike's mind because that was money he could be rather spending on cheeseburgers. And also, this guy had like $500,000 a year coming in from students. Like, he was making a lot of money, yet he was always behind on his credit cards, always behind on his rent. So he had all this money, but he was spending it all, and he was like using his other credit cards to pay off the other credit cards. Well, finally he called a meeting. "We need to have a meeting," he would say, and everyone would groan, and then they would sit in the gym, and he'd go through a meeting that could have lasted 5 minutes. He would take an hour to make a point, and then he would get lost in what he was saying and forget what the whole meeting was about, and he'd go down the line, or if there was something, then he would start picking on somebody about something so stupid, like picking on someone about their weight when he was the fattest person any of us ever knew, and the laziest with the worst diet, that smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day. And so he had this meeting. He was fed up. Someone was illegally dumping garbage in his dumpster, is what he thought. But he forgot that he had so many like fast food wrappers. That's what was filling up the dumpster. Well, he got furious. So anyway, he got one of the students to go across to the Home Hardware and buy a lock and a key. So that way, only the person from the school could open the dumpster and put the school's garbage in. So me and Lars Phoenix got this idea. Now, he had a lot of cameras, but he never used to have one in the back parking lot where this dumpster was. Well, he had gotten a camera installed back there now, and he would watch the camera, but he never found anyone illegally dumping because there was no one illegally dumping. He just forgot how much garbage he consumed himself, and also having like 5 to 10 students living in there too. So he had this camera, and me and Lars were like, we got this idea. We are gonna get some bolt cutters, cut off his locks, and switch his locks with one of our locks, but we would buy the exact same ones. But first, we had to find out. So what happened was, I went into the office to talk to Ike, and I made up some BS story, which, give to Ike a taste of his own medicine. But I was talking to Ike, but I was actually looking past him and looking at the camera. So Lars went and circled by the dumpster and made sure, like, if he was going to get spotted on the camera, if he could duck down or if he could not. So we had it all figured out that if we stayed low, that we couldn't be seen by the camera. So yeah, so Ike bought this lock from Home Hardware, and he had it locked up for the dumpster. So me and Lars Phoenix went and got a pack of 4 locks, the exact same locks, and we got a pair of bolt cutters. So one night after practice, we crept around there, used the bolt cutters, cut off his lock, and replaced it with one of our own. Then we waited for the madness to ensue, and it was always funny. So one of the students goes to take out the trash the next day or whatever, and he comes back to Ike and he said, Ike, I can't get the lock open. And Ike loses it on him. What are you, stupid, you moron? You little cocksucker, go and use the key. Do you not know how to use a key? And he's like getting so mad at him, and the student knows how to use a key, but it wasn't working, because even though it looked like the exact same lock, it was not. So the student goes and tries again. Again, it wouldn't work. So finally, Ike is like livid because he doesn't want to get up, and he's like, what the hell? And he finally goes down to the dumpster himself, and sure enough, the guy was right. The key did not work. So he loses it, and then Ike has to go buy a pair of his own bolt cutters, and then he replaces the lock with one of his own. Well, we had 3 more locks. So we did this. Ike ended up calling the cops about this, that someone was replacing his lock, and the cops are like, it was probably the strangest story they ever heard. He's like trying to explain to them that he bought a lock because people were illegally dumping in the dumpster, and someone was cutting the lock off and putting their own lock on, and the cops are like, what is going on here? So we finally got Ike back, but he never knew it was us, and it was so great, like, for us, and we weren't even living in the school, but sometimes we would just drop in during the day, just because it was so fun to experience the drama, but also know that you could leave whenever you had to, when you had a place to go. So as soon as, like, Ike would turn on us or ask us to do something, or some kind of bitch work or paying your dues, oh sorry Ike, we got to go. So it was awesome like that. So we had a good time bugging Ike. We pulled a couple of good pranks on him, and it was like, hey, you know what? You screwed us out of our money. We're gonna get you back the slow and methodical way, and it was so fun. And he had so many dumb episodes and times where, like, you could hear him on the phone and you'd be like talking about Shane and Vince McMahon, but then you'd hear do 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 on the phone, but he was pretending he was on with Shane McMahon. And especially for us, because we knew he was full of BS by this point. So like when he would be telling one of his stories to one of the new students, and we would just try, like, we end up getting what we call the Joe face, which is like a poker face, and we ended up being able to hold it in. And then we would talk about it, laugh after, and just burst out laughing. But we had this Joe face and we could also humor him too. Like, oh yeah, I remember that, Ike. I remember you telling us about that. Or like, just, we could pretend like we believed everything he said, even though we knew everything was a lie. And we just had fun with him by this point because we knew, and he wasn't running any more shows either. And the only thing he had of use to us was the wrestling ring. So we stayed on his good side in his mind, but deep down we were like getting him from the inside, an inside job, I guess you would call it. We had so much fun doing this kind of stuff. Ike consumed us. Our whole, like, who needed a TV show? Going home and talking about Ike, or going to the school and finding out a story about one of the students would tell us about what Ike did that day. That was our entertainment. Ike is the most entertaining person ever, but he's not fun to live with or deal with any kind of business-wise. And apparently he had this deal with TSN, and he screwed it up because he went there and he had like a mustard-stained shirt and he kept demanding more money. Like, ICW could have been on TSN, but of course Ike, he just couldn't, he always had to ask for more, and he just kept pushing the envelope. He had a lot of good things on the go. He had APTN TV. He was a development for WWF Canada. Like, He had a lot of good things going, but he always just screwed them up when he could have been way bigger than he was, and a lot of the students at the school could have got such great opportunities, and all the opportunities he did get were not because of him. They just fell in his lap because of other people around him. But this is part 5 of the Ike Shaw story. I just want to tell a couple other funny stories. And this is also episode 48 of the W.I.L.L.I.W show. And remember, like or you get a leg drop, comment or you get a clothesline, subscribe or you get a suplex. I'm your host, Elian Habanero. I love wrestling. Cuba!